Welcome to another exciting episode and interview of Kung Fu Conversations with the world-renowned, legendary, amazing, and all those other things that I can't think of right now, Dr. Mark Ching. Dr. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
I'm honored. Now, with an intro like that, I'm going to have to work really hard to live up to it.
So let's just say that somebody has been living under a rock. Who knows? It's 2023 now. So just in case anybody has been living under a rock, would you tell us some of your martial background?
I kind of resemble that remark. So, gosh, as far as my martial arts background, I would say that my initial training, my earliest years were in traditional Chinese martial arts, Shaolin and, Taiji. I actually started Taiji with my dad when I was 10. And then since moving out to LA, I've had the privilege of studying with, a whole bunch of different teachers from, Shotokan legend Tsutomu Oshima to, the late Professor Dan Lee, Bruce Lee student, who's also one of my Taiji teachers, to a couple different Suaijiao masters, Dr. Daniel Wang, plus the late Grandmaster David Lin. Fat Ga Kun from Sifu Arthur Lee, the late Grandmaster Arthur Lee. As far as Chinese martial arts, that's that. As far as other martial arts and what I'm doing now, I try and spend my training time these days is pretty much either with Sifu James Lin, who's Grandmaster David Lin's elder son, doing combat Suaijiao, or at the Inosanto Academy, training directly with Guru Dan Inosanto. And then whenever I can, outside of that, I try and make some time to train either with Tom Muzilla Sensei in Shotokan, or Martin Wheeler, one of my favorite teachers in Systema, and as well as Aikido under Matsuoka Haruo Sensei and Josh Gold.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. I've seen you do Sunam Tao a few times. Did you learn that under Sifu Dan or Guru Dan?
No, actually, Guru Dan's never taught me any forms, any sets per se. So the Sunam Tao that I've done, I think the one that I think you're referring to, the one that's on Instagram, that I actually learned from Randy Williams.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there was a period of time during around the mid 90s, whenever Randy would come to LA, I would pick him up at the airport and he'd stay at my place. When he was, I think, shooting, I can't remember which of the series he was shooting or if he'd already shot some of his video. Like he had one video series that he did through Unique Publications. That was the parent company of Inside Kung Fu. And I think he had something like 26 volumes or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was enormous.
Enormous and very encyclopedic. And if you actually have access to his books that he wrote and I think he wrote them and shot them all in Singapore, the footage, all of the stills, it's incredible. It's like probably one of the most well thought out encyclopedic series you're going to find on Wing Chun, or at least on his interpretation of Wing Chun. So yeah, I was really fortunate to steal some time with him.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I'm a little dumb to Foot Ga. Would you kind of explain that style a little bit? Because I know it's a Southern art, I'm guessing. So
Yep. So Foot Ga, believe it or not, it's interesting. Like when I've looked through the web, there are so many different styles, so many different systems that use the term or use the labeling Foot Ga. Foot in Cantonese means Buddha, Ga meaning family, so style. So to say that, I guess in broad terms, to say that you're doing Foot Ga or Buddha style means that you're doing a style that's got some derivation from Shaolin or some sort of Buddhist background. The version that I was fortunate enough to learn came via Hawaii. So the grandmaster I studied under was the late Arthur Lee, and he studied under Lam Dai-yung, who spent some time in Shaolin. So from what I understand, Lam Dayong's Fat Ga, if you look at it, it draws elements from the five main Southern styles, Southern Kung Fu styles, Choi, Hong, Lao, Lei, and Mo. So if you look at all those five, you will see elements of them within our Fat Ga. There are other styles that also refer to themselves as Fat Ga, and I haven't had the privilege of studying them, so I can't really comment on them. But they all pretty much have that same kind of, like, there's something about them that's definitely an intrinsic Southern style.
And would you characterize any of those styles? What would the similarities be, or what, sort of the glaring differences inside of the Fukka?
I mean, it's hard for me to comment on because I haven't really spent a whole lot of time really studying what those other systems of Fat Ga are like. Sure. So I can't. It's tough for me to. Yeah, it's really tough for me to comment on that. So yeah.
I've got one for you. So on the southern side of things, have you looked at anything like a Mokka or a Chuga or some of the other Honga and seen some of the similarities maybe in the other southern styles to the Futga?
Oh, Honga for sure. Chuga, as far as like the Tonglong, the praying mantis style, I've not seen any of the stuff that I consider like, oh, that's definitely like some trademark Chuga, Tonglong, whatever, right? I haven't seen any of that in Fat Ga Kun, but yeah. But like Hong Kun for sure. Stuff that looks like Chole Fat for sure. I mean, like you'll see a lot of crossover with Chole Fat and Fat Ga because there's that common Fat term in there. Right. But the Choi also as well. Because I'm not well schooled on what does like Lao Ga, Lei Ga, or Mok Ga look like, especially Mok Ga, because Mok Ga, I'm not really like, I mean, I've seen, I just from curiosity, I've looked on YouTube and seen like, what are some different versions of Mok Ga? And like, I don't see a similar thread other than it just looking like someone doing sets. So like, if there's a binding logic, I'm not privy to it yet.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Dan Lee, would you talk about his Tai Chi a little bit?
He was probably the first teacher that really made me think in terms of teaching, like the importance of really having a very well thought out progression to teach. So in other words, like instead of just follow me through this form or just follow me doing this, is, like old style masters oftentimes in the park, they're there to practice. You just try and follow along as much as you can. It's like a kind of a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing, right? And then if you demonstrate that you're serious enough, then maybe you're going to hear a few words of correction, right? Professor Lee was totally the opposite. It was sort of like, here are the things you need to look out for. Here's how you practice. Here are the details. And so because of that, I think the people that were fortunate enough to learn from him really understood what to look out for. So instead of just kind of like, oh, I'm moving slow and I don't really know what I'm doing and what he's like, this is what you're doing. This is why you're doing it. There's a logic. So I really credit him for showing me what a martial arts teacher could be like as an educator.
Oh man, that is big.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's super educated, probably one of the most educated guys I had the privilege of training with. In addition to his work as an engineer for JPL, aerospace guy. I mean, he's super, he's brilliant as a professional, but as a martial artist, as someone that wanted to study Chinese medicine, he also, I think a lot of people don't know that he, I don't remember if he just had his licensure or if he also had his doctorate in Chinese medicine. So this is a guy that's very, very schooled, very intelligent, and very academic in his approach. So yeah, I was really lucky to have the time that I did with him.
And what would you say like a typical class would have looked like, when you were going regularly?
At Dan Lee's?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Typical class would have been, you go in to the cultural center, you warm up, and then it's like Taiji for however long. And then you're working whatever section that you're on. Like you're either, if the new people are working on section 1, the slightly less new people are doing section 1, section 2. And like everyone would start together and then people would break off. So like the section 1 people would break off after they hit where they would know, and then they'd work on that part. The section 2 people would do the same, 3, blah, blah, blah. 4 would go all the way through the whole set. And then like the super advanced people would then break off at the end, having done the whole set once, then would go and work on either push hands or weapons or something else.
Cool. Thank you.
I think if I recall correctly, there were times when he had some of the seniors that were there doing like Bagua as well. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was that primarily Yang style that he was teaching?
Yeah, that's correct. Primarily Yang style. He did during class. I do remember seeing some, like there were some times when he was teaching Chen style as well, but yeah, mostly Yang.
Owen and I have a joke between each other that we need to get engineering degrees because a lot of the great Chinese masters that are excellent teachers just happen to be engineers.
I think a lot of them actually managed to get jobs over here or make headway in terms of immigration because they were engineers. So I think that may have fast-tracked their immigration status.
Sure.
Owen?
Go.
Okay. It's been almost 25 years since Combat Tai Chi was released, and it just had a big new release, like a reboot, if you will.
Quite a shock.
Are you thrilled about that? A couple questions on it, and then let you go. Who were your Tai Chi influences? Why did you think that was a series that needed to be made at the time? And I've got to be honest with you, those videos might be more relevant now than they were when they were released. What do you think about that, Doc?
I want to hear that. I'm going to turn the questioning back around to you.
Sure.
Because I've got to hear, why do you think they're more relevant now than ever before? That fascinates me, man.
I honestly think that. So I've been involved with the Wang Q lineage of Wing Chun. This next month will be 25 years, and I've had the privy of pushing hands in a kind fashion, not in a rude way, with a lot of different people. And a lot of my friends that have done Tai Chi have almost walked away or washed their hands of it completely working with other people. Because when I started back in 98, back at Mesa in Grand Junction, Colorado, doing the Wing Chun Club, a lot of the Tai Chi guys that I knew, whether they be Yang, I knew a lot of Wu guys over there. They were throwing people around. They knew how to throw a punch. They know how to take a kick, those kind of things. And these days, again, the ones that still practice, they're like, it's just a bunch of pudding. Everybody's either too soft, like overcooked noodles, or they have no concept of what the combat application of any of it. They kind of feel like it's been kind of over westernized and turned into something that is just for health and has no martial application. So at least from some of the people that I still talk to when I started training the Wing Chun almost 25 years ago, that's what I only know a few people that actually know how to use it in a martial aspect. And here's another thing too. I've got some friends that do, karate, they do some judo and things like that. And they'll have, folks that teach Tai Chi in their school, and they'll be like, oh, this is what we think that you're doing. This is what we think that you're doing. And so they'll add on application for like a 1-to-1. It's like, oh, wild horse parts the main. It's like, oh, well, this kind of looks like this. So are they doing a Tai Chi application, or are they adding on something that kind of looks like the movement? Are they using a Tai Chi power, or are they kind of doing something that kind of looks like Tai Chi? So
interesting. Yeah, I'm curious about that too. I mean, I've seen people show applications before of different martial arts. I mean, we don't have to talk specifically Tai Chi. I mean, like I've certainly seen people show applications of kata in like Shotokan and been
Sure.
like,
what?
I don't see where that movement that you're talking about in the form is what you're demonstrating, but sure, whatever. If it works for you, great. Honestly, I think when it comes to applications, there are a lot of people that gain inspiration for a particular technique that they do from the form. And I don't know for a fact that what they're doing is like, okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing in the form. And the biomechanics look similar. Like for Part Wild Horse's mane, right? Like if you look at that, like if you understand the difference in terms of ranging, right? That could be a couple different applications.
Absolutely.
So what a lot of people think of in terms of applications is, oh, there's one move, there should be one application. The world is not that like binary. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's spectrums. So for example, if you're in a particular range at a particular angle, it could be this application. If you're at a slightly different range, like you're in a little bit closer, it's a different application. If you're even further, it's something else. So like if you look at it from long range, medium range, close range, right? What's long range? Usually striking or evading, right? What's medium range? Usually striking or capturing. What's close range? Capturing or grappling, right? So like we have to be able to look at the form as a codex. Like what does the codex offer us in terms of options? And that's limited by your experience. You know, if you haven't had the time or you haven't had the opportunity to be able to work techniques at those ranges with different people, you won't know what the hell it's for. And then at that point, it just becomes a health exercise, which is great. No knock against the health. However, I feel like when you have the intent of the movements in terms of self-defense, then you have a greater spectrum available to you. Like you can rev it up or you can tone it down depending on whatever situation you find yourself in. So to me, that's why I approach Taiji the way I do. And, you know, my father, like I think I told you guys, I started with my father. He was my first Taiji teacher. The thing that got me into Taiji was not the form. Like as I'm watching him move slowly, I'm like, you know, as a little kid, especially, you're looking at that going like, this looks like some bullshit. So, and then it just becomes, as a kid, you know, like I tell this story quite often, like as a kid, me looking at him as he was doing the set and just watching, it just looked so weird that I had to work hard at not laughing. And of course, a little kid, if you're trying to not laugh, it's like trying to hold back wild horses. There's no way you're going to do that. So I bust out laughing. And my dad's there like, what's so funny? And he's like, this is martial art. And I'm like, and that to me, that thought that was martial art was even funnier. So I laughed even harder. And he goes, all right, here, throw a punch. So I go, really? He goes, yeah, throw a punch. You know how to throw a punch. I was like, all right. Boom. And he's like, whoop, and sent me sailing. And I remember like, it felt so soft when he received and so like, I don't even know the word to describe it. It just felt like I was carried, you know, when he sent me flying. I was just like, what the hell? Okay, I want to learn this. I really want to learn this. So that, I think because I got into Taiji from being hooked from the applications, that colored my experience for the rest of my life.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. And so like even one of the things that I remember, there were a bunch of people in Professor Lee's class that were there Dan Lee's class, that were there just to learn the form because they wanted to appreciate the artistic excellent experience of the form, the health aspects of the form, things like that. And I remember I was the pain in the ass young kid who was always like, Sifu, what's the application? Sifu, what's the application? Sifu, what's the application? And like, they were like, kid, shut up. So yeah.
Good for grilling him. Good for, being the loud kid in the room.
I couldn't help myself. I mean, I'm still that way when I get excited.
Mr. Schilling?
No, you know, I was actually, when you said that, I was like, well, what's exciting you these days? What's,
oh man.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know where to start. I mean,
good.
The names that I mentioned at the beginning, when you guys
Sure.
asked me about the living under the rock thing, God, any one of these people that I get to spend time with is enough for me to just I could take a deep dive with any one person for years, and not run out. Since moving out go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Guru Dan. How long have you been working with Guru Dan? And how has he influenced? Because, I mean, my God, he's influenced, I feel like, everybody in the martial world. And, almost anybody under a rock knows who Dan Inosanto is. How long have you been working with him? And what things, because I know Dan has a plethora of things to work with. What has really inspired you about Guru Dan? And how has he kind of changed things on maybe how you teach? Anything like that?
Oh, man. That could be I kid you not, that could be an episode unto itself.
I know.
I know. Kid you not. I mean, man, where do I start? The things that he is not credited for, that he was actually the source of, or the guy that brought these changes about. Man, I could number them and it would blow your damn mind. I mean, aside from teaching Bruce Lee the nunchucks, and also teaching Bruce Kali, there's so much stuff, like the kicking shield, that Bruce Lee would practice with, actually came from Guru Inosanto, because they were using that as a football blocking shield back in the day. And so for football players, before they had those shields mounted up on,
the stands.
Sleds, like a sled that you could, the tackling guys could work down the field. They used to be handheld back in the day. So Guru saw that and was he brought it to Bruce and was like, hey, I think we can practice with this thing. And Bruce was like, oh, this could be fun. So, I mean, there's so many instances like that. Man, so many instances throughout history. So Guru's influence, and because he's so low key and so chill and so not hungry for that recognition, when he doesn't get it or when people don't know it, he's just like, whatever, it's no big deal. And I've been really lucky to spend time with him kind of off the mat, quite a lot of it off the mat. I got to know him as a patient. One of his teachers, the late Pak Victor de Toires, of Silat Serak. Pak Vic was a patient of mine at the time, and he says, you need to treat one of my students. I'm like, I'd be glad to, sir. I think you know him. His name is Dan Inosanto. And I'm like, I definitely know that name, sir. And then I think a week or two later, Guru called me up and, came in for an appointment. And so we started off with him as a patient of mine. And it's funny because talking about crazy, I mean, dude, when I think about some of this stuff as a kid, for me as a kid, and if you'd had told me when I was 16, hey man, you're going to be treating someone with injuries that were caused by Bruce Lee, I would have been like, no way. Just unthinkable. And so I remember one of the first times when Guru came in, he was telling me about lower back pain. And I was like, can you tell me about your lower back history? How long has this been hurting? He said, actually, doc, I think it started in late 60s, maybe about 69. I took a really hard fall on a stage. It was a wooden stage. And as he started talking to me about it, I'm like, this is the picture. And I hope you can find it for the podcast audience. There's a still where Bruce Lee is doing a throw and Guru's wearing a white gi. And Guru's a few feet off the ground. And it's you can see Guru vertical and Bruce is throwing him downward. And that was the start. And he was telling me about, and I'm listening to this going as I'm hearing him describe the situation of how he got injured, I'm like, I think I know what you're talking about. And it was really wild. I just,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any words other than really wild to describe it. It just unbelievable. Unbelievable. So yeah, I got to know him. I think he came in either '04 or '05. I can't remember. I want to say '04, '03 or '04. Somewhere in there. Time is kind of a blur these days.
Yeah, that's 20 years ago, Doc. I get it.
Yeah, man. So, that's when he came in, and then, he kept inviting me. He's like, Doc, if you want to come in to train at the academy, come in. And I just, I have such a reticence when it comes to being opportunistic, especially when it comes to people being, kind to me or generous with me who are my patients. I'm like, oh, I can't. And I know for a fact, like with him, he's one of these guys that's crazy generous, like generous to a fault. And, if he didn't have people watching out for him, he's so good hearted that he would give away the clothes on his back, that kind of guy. And so like every time he'd invite me to come to train at the academy, I'm like, no, I can't. And then finally, I can't remember who I was talking to, a friend of mine or a colleague, and they were like, dude, you've been wanting to train with this, meet this guy, and never mind train with this guy for like the majority of your life. Why don't you just do it? And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So then I think it was like maybe '06 or so, shortly before the birth of my son, maybe late '05, that I actually went into the academy, and joined up, and then started training, and I've been there since.
That's amazing.
As far as what of the many things that how Guru influences me, gosh, I in so many different ways. I mean, I think in the most powerful way is he drives me to look for ways of being a better person. The grace with which he handles so much. I mean, I don't know what the right word is to say. I mean, like he handles so much, whether it be from people that are running their mouths that don't know anything about him or Bruce Lee or whatever. And then they're like yapping about him, and how he just handles it with such cool, like he doesn't handle it with condescension. He doesn't handle it by having to snap back or clap back at people. He's so classy and chill and so forgiving of a guy, that, I feel a lot about him as I feel it like with my own dad. I mean, like I've often said about my own dad that if the day when I kick the bucket, if I'm like 5% of the guy that my dad is, then wow, I'll be thrilled. And it's the same with Guru.
Is your dad still with us?
Yes, thank goodness.
And is he still doing Tai Chi? Are you guys still doing Tai Chi now and then?
Sorry, give me 1 second.
You're good.
My daughter just pinged me and I just want to answer this. She's like, like with the iPhone and the Apple devices, you can have like
multiple
do not disturb, like absolutely do not disturb, whatever things. With my kids, no matter what, if they ping me, I'll answer. So
good. Are you still doing Tai Chi with Dad every now and then?
Once in a while, I try and get Dad to train, but he's 96 now. So like,
oh wow,
yeah, he's happy just to be up and shuffling around the house. So
that's a good thing, right? That's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, for him, it's more like at this stage in the game, just because he's been sedentary for a while too. Like let me backtrack a bit. Pre-pandemic, he was out here visiting with my mom. He and my mom were out here, and he was just getting over a flu. And they were on their daily walk, going, like, the area that I live in is rather hilly. And so they were coming up one hill, and my dad was going forward to press the cross the street button, the stop sign button, or whatever it's called. I don't remember, like the thing to trigger the light to change. And he said, as he went forward to go to press the button, he said he couldn't figure out why he was moving backwards. And he fainted. He passed out and hit his head. So he had a skull fracture. And that was, I think, 3 years ago. So 2019. So yeah, almost 4 years ago now. And so since then, he hasn't been his usual self as far as movement goes. He's still been mobile. I mean, he can still squat rock bottom, but all of his movements are much more ginger now. So I'm glad to still have him with us. He's still functional. He's still conversational. But his memory isn't quite what it was. And certainly his mobility, having been laid up for a while, isn't quite what it was either. So yeah, at this stage, I'm just trying to keep him mobile and have him do groundwork. So not groundwork in terms of jiu-jitsu, but groundwork in terms of exercises and mobility, so that his joints stay somewhat functional and that his core stays active.
Nice. That's a very cool approach. Because yeah, my father-in-law, he's older as well. So it's like, it could be good to just have something like that as a resource in terms of, just basic exercises about getting up and being on the ground and keeping your core engaged. And yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, simple things. Simple, but not easy, especially if you're already operating from a point where like you can't do some of these positions or you can't do some of these exercises. Luckily, my dad still has access to all of those ranges, although it's just not the most strength or not the most control. So I said, Dad, like every day, if you can, I took my old bedroom, the master bedroom in the house, and converted it to a spa. So like now there's a hyperbaric chamber in there. There's a treatment table. There's an inversion table. It's kitted out.
Well, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I bled some pennies for that. Quite a few. But part of the area is matted floor. So like I said, I want you ideally to be able to lie down on this mat, get up, reach for the ceiling fan, and then lie back down and do that 20 times every day. If you can do that 20 times a day with relative ease, that's going to keep you in the game longer. Whereas if you just sit in front of the TV, we're going to have problems. Or if you're just going to fall asleep in a recliner, there are going to be some problems.
It sounds like a non-kettlebell Turkish getup almost.
It pretty much is. Yeah, it pretty much is. Like it's funny. There are certain things that he'll do as far as movement or as far as with the resistance. But if I put a weight in his hand, he's like, "Oh, it's too heavy." So like rather than arguing with him about that, I'll just get him to do movements that approximate the benefits that I want, without having to run into that kind of resistance from him.
Sure. That's a cool strategy.
Yeah. I think that path of least resistance thing is one that I've been a little bit slow to the game to adopt.
Owen?
Randel?
Yes, sir. Any questions?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm loaded over here. I've got all the good stuff, Doc.
Fire, man.
Where did your kettlebell journey begin? And you went pretty far down that rabbit hole with one of the guys that basically brought it over here to the West.
Yes. So like a lot of things in my life, especially in the latter half of my life, my kettlebell journey started at the Inosanto Academy, believe it or not.
Wow.
Guru came to me one time at the office and was like, "Doc, I have a favor to ask of you." I'm like, "Name it. Anything you want. Anything you want." And he goes, "Can you come to the academy?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll come to the academy. What's the situation?" He goes, "Well, one of my students got me these training sessions with this Russian weight training coach. And you've just got, like, my back has been bothering me for decades and you've got me like relatively pain free. Like I want it to stay that way. I really don't care to have my back messed up, like by overtraining or hurting myself or doing whatever. So like, as a medical voice in the room, would you mind coming just so like if you see something that is off or is dangerous or whatever, you object on my behalf? And if for some reason I happen to get hurt, you're already there so you can put me back together. I go, sure. So I pull into the parking lot. We're waiting for Guru, and then who rolls up but Pavel Tsatsouline himself. And I was just like, I think I've seen that guy's face on some ads in the magazine or something like that. And he opens up his trunk, pulls out some kettlebells and walks in. I'm like, yeah, I've seen him before. And then, that was my first introduction to Pavel at the Inosanto Academy.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, the more I heard Pavel speak, the less I thought I was sitting in on a weight training session than observing a master at rehabilitative exercise. So the more I heard him speak, the more I heard Pavel cue and ask Guru to do certain exercises, the more I thought, wow, this is stuff that if every MD, every DO, every medical professional had to experience or had some background in, wow, what a different kind of healthcare we would see right now. And I certainly thought that so much of what I'd just heard from Pavel that first day, as a clinician, I was like, man, I can't wait to go try this shit myself and actually do this with my patients. So yeah, that's how my journey started.
Do you think that the strength training that a kettlebell can offer people, how do I say this? I have some friends that have done, nothing but like, let's say a Kempo or a karate style. And they're like, oh, this keeps me in shape. This keeps me in shape. This keeps me in shape. And I'm a short, little chubby round guy, so I can't say a whole lot, but they're using their martial art just for the health practice. And a lot of people in martial arts seem to be very opposed to weightlifting, but something as dynamic, especially if it's taught correctly as the kettlebell, do you think that can fill a gap or a void that a lot of classical martial artists just aren't getting in their art?
It's tough to say because if you look at arts like shuaijiao, Chinese wrestling,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
The stone lock training is almost identical to what you'd see in terms of kettlebells. Okinawan Goju-ryu, you'll see people working with kishi and other weighted exercise. So I don't know that like a martial art per se is going to forbid weightlifting or run counter to weightlifting. I think it's the style of weightlifting that's important to consider. So if you're training weightlifting in a way that you're just trying to build hypertrophy, with no sense of responsibility in terms of pain-free range of motion, in terms of flexibility, in terms of like ease of movement, and just looking for size, and also not being considered in terms of like how that extra mass may affect your movement in terms of speed, then we have a potential problem. But I think otherwise, I don't see an issue with weight training. If you look at a lot of the old time Taiji guys, even they would do movement just to build strength, with different kinds of weights or different kinds of resistance. So I don't see what the issue is. I think a lot of that is just, an incomplete picture, that, unfortunately some folks have carried forth, and some of it is just because opinions have gotten lost in translation as well. So some of that is just the unfortunate outcome of monoglot culture.
Mm-hmm. You have a unique perspective because I feel like you have a good grasp of Western and Eastern medicine. What are some things that both of these styles of medicine can bring to the table and have a conversation about? How do they help augment each other? Are they completely opposing each other, or where can they find a middle ground to have a good conversation? What are the pros and cons of each, if you will?
Man, that's a superb question. I think the younger me was pretty ignorant, and said that they were like, it's, playing it out like team A, team B, and they're never in the middle shall they meet. And that was pretty myopic and pretty inexperienced and juvenile of me. Looking at it from the perspective that I have now, I think it's just like two different languages. Like we're speaking different languages with different perspectives and different influences with the same goals, right? The goal is to be able to treat the human body, to be able to improve the human body, to be able to reduce pain, to be able to help the body overcome disease. It's just the methods are different. And I think if we spent less energy on, picking at each other and started looking carefully at like, what are the paradigms in which we can piggyback with each other better, we'd have a better result. For example, like, let's see. Okay, let's look at back pain, right? Western lower back pain treatments oftentimes for an inexperienced clinician, right, will be, okay, take a muscle relaxant, take a pain reliever or whatever, assuming that the x-ray or assuming that the imaging is clean, like assuming that there's no reason to fear that there's a fracture or some sort of tumorous growth or some sort of osteoporosis, anything architectural like that. Assuming none of those major cases is going on, then oftentimes the average clinician is going to be like, here, take 2 of these Advil and call me in the morning. And unfortunately, that doesn't really help the patient feel better. Now, a little bit more experienced clinician, whether it's an MD, a DO, DC, whatever the designation is, a little bit more experienced clinician might be able to say like, okay, let's see how you move. Let me have you reach for your toes. Let me see you put your arms overhead and reach backwards. Let me see you turn left and right. Okay. You have a little bit of a movement asymmetry. You have a bias towards this. And some of that tension is causing you pain here, here, and here. So let me have you do these exercises. And if these exercises can get you greater range of motion and have you feeling better, then let me have you doing those. I mean, we can't say that that's Western or Eastern. That's just simply paying attention to what the patient is coming in with and not being lazy and saying like, here are two muscle relaxants, here are two anti-inflammatories, call me in the morning. I mean, pharmaceutical culture is easy, but it's not necessarily sustainable, nor is it complete. Similarly, like exercise or corrective exercise or restorative exercise culture isn't complete either. Someone comes in with a gunshot wound, no damn way I'm going to have them doing deadlifts. So we need to be more intelligent about how we triage our patients. And I think a lot of that isn't going to happen until like insurance changes how they bill, how doctors and practitioners get compensated.
Wow. Super wise. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Are you still doing Taekwondo with the kiddos? Didn't you guys get into Taekwondo a little bit?
Yeah, we did. We did. I still train once in a while. Like I'll still work on my pumse. One of my best friends is Grandmaster John Engum, who runs a dojang in the Midwest. He's another fellow master SFG in StrongFirst. And one of my inspirations as far as continuing with Taekwondo. So yeah, I still train once in a while. I drag the kids in when I can. But my son right now is in wrestling. So he's focusing all of his time either training or trying to recover from wrestling training.
Yep. I remember those days.
Yeah. So he's working really hard with that. So right now, as far as weapons, kick punch arts, other stuff, I want him to handle business with wrestling, especially since it's senior year.
Right.
So let him do his wrestling, let him concentrate on that. And then later on, I'll be like, okay, hey, let's go back and revisit some of these other skill sets. My daughter, whenever she's around on Sunday mornings, it's like, hey, let's go through, at least let's just go run through the colored belt pumse, just so you have some kind of recollection. And then maybe kick some paddle.
Awesome. Are you supplementing your son's training with any kettlebell work or anything like that for the wrestling? Or are you kind of letting him and his coach kind of do their own thing as far as that goes?
It really depends on his level of energy. So like a lot of, he's got practice 5 days a week.
Whoo.
Yeah. And he comes back up the hill, like soaking freaking wet.
Yeah,
and
I bet he does.
And so when I see that, the thought in my head is, as much as I might want to supplement him with other training, really the most responsible thing that he needs is good recovery so that his body can assimilate what he went through and then not have to, rev the gas pedal against the brake.
Sure. Or risk injury somehow.
Yeah. And that's really a thing. I think with every athlete, regardless of age, dude, I think most athletes are so driven. Like, I want to do better. I want to train harder. I want to perform more. Right. Mm-hmm. And so what ends up happening is it like, okay, there's a little warning light that's pain, or there's something like something doesn't feel right as I'm training or I'm doing whatever. Like I'm working my ground strokes, or I'm, hitting the heavy bag, or I'm working my takedowns and rolls, or I'm doing these lifts. And we just kind of turn a blind eye to it until that pain becomes like hard stop pain. And I think that's something that if we as professionals can help people understand, okay, you have these discomforts, they're important to note. And here's some of the things that these discomforts could mean that you have to do so that you can deal with these discomforts and get them out of the way so you can get back to training. Yeah. I wish that was part of physical education for every kid.
Yeah.
Like if we had that in our schools, can you imagine how dope our young athletes would be? How healthy our country would be? Instead, we've got people who are hooked on like painkillers and stuff because why? They blew out their back in the weightlifting room as a high school or college athlete that didn't really need to go that hard, go that far, go that deep into dysfunction, into pain in their training.
Wow. Yeah, that might have saved me a thumb surgery and a knee surgery.
Yeah. I mean, I think about for myself, like oftentimes, like when I look at him, when I see him, I'm like, okay, if I was in your shoes, what would I have wished that someone told me or did for me? And so like, I mean, he's got it pretty damn good. He wakes up with a kink in his neck and he's like, Dad, would you mind? And I'm like, okay, let's I'll do the soft tissue work and mold the joint. And he'll be like, pop, 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 pop. And like, oh, lovely. So like, yeah, I mean, he's got some incredible resources here, whether it's like the, red light therapy wraps from Fringe, or whether it's the hyperbaric chamber or whatever. I mean, he's making intelligent use of what he's got available, and I'm proud of him for that.
That's awesome.
Is he? Yeah, that is totally awesome. Is he maybe looking forward to continuing a wrestling career in college? Has he talked about that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
One, because he's like, let's be realistic. He goes, my life doesn't revolve around wrestling.
Cool.
And he goes, and I know there are a lot of kids out there where it does. Like they've wrestled, or they come from like lineage wrestling families where like, that's their thing. He goes, I have no desire to compete against them. And I'm like, good for you. And he goes, so yeah, maybe, maybe after I graduate from high school, I'll go to one of the local junior colleges to get my general education requirements done. And then I'll just go with you on Thursdays to the Inosanto Academy. And I'm like, oh, it'd be so awesome.
Yeah. Did he have any other interests in terms of like martial arts? Like, do you gravitate, I guess, maybe more towards grappling or more towards like striking arts? Or I'm sure he had quite an introduction.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some crazy introductions from people. I mean, like his first formal martial arts instruction actually was with Hwarangdo Grandmaster Taijun Lee. So,
oh wow,
yeah, that was his first formal martial arts instruction. So like. From that, then to Little Dragons at the Inosanto Academy, trained directly under Guru, and then training with me and other people since. So, it's his martial course, his martial exposure is like the stuff of like my wildest dreams. I couldn't imagine training with some of those people right from the drop. Right. And so, yeah, I don't know what he's going to get into, but like right now he's he's curious about Kali, which is great because I'd like to have him more familiar with implement training. Like, how do you like pull a Jason Bourne? In other words, anything in the room can be weaponized. Never mind just your hands and your feet, but like anything in the room, whether it's a coffee cup, whether it's a charging cable, whether it's a pen, like everything can be a force multiplier. So how can you take that art and then bring it to its greatest fruition, based on the situation that you're in?
Are there any other weapons besides the Kali that you like working with, Doc, that you think are just
Kali,
like, these are awesome?
Kali is huge, man. I mean, like, I don't know if it's still online or not, but there used to be one of my colleagues. Actually, this is the guy that set up that weightlifting session with Pavel for Guru, is a guy by the name of Mike Krivka, who's like a big brother to me. Mike Krivka on his website used to have an explanation of the 12 areas of Inosanto Lacoste Kali. So in these 12 areas are 12 categories of weapons training or martial training, 12 areas of focus. So like single stick, double knife, axes, cane, stuff that looks like a sai, which is called a chabang, or siku. Spears, blowguns, a sarong, a towel, nunchucks. So like when you've got an art that's that vast, really that vast, and it's got a grappling, empty hand grappling, stick grappling, like all of these different kinds of expression of combat. Man, I mean, like, to explore that and do it in a way that you've explored it in a way that gives the study some justice, man, that's lifetimes of study right there. So, I'm curious as far as where he decides to go. And certainly for me, like, no matter how many times I show up for Kali, like, even if we're doing the same exact exercises on one day or same exact drills on one day that we did, let's say last time I went in, there's something that I catch. It's a little bit different. Like, oh, I didn't get that detail last time. Mm-hmm. So it never gets stale, and which is a lot of what I say about why I'm still in love with Tai Chi.
That's great. Perfect. You answered, you went right into the segue. Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, I think with Tai Chi's like one of those arts that the more I practice it, the more I realize, wow, there's something that I missed in previous iterations or in previous sessions or in previous years. So with application, I think, okay, that's great to be able to see some of the things that I've been working on that are like, okay, this is a particular kind of energy. Now, can I do it in a different kind of energy or a different kind of timing? Like one of the things that I'm working on right now, and I think this is where real skill comes in. Like you see people like Matsuoka do this. You see people that like Martin Wheeler do this. You see certainly like a bunch of the higher level Taiji masters do this. And it's to be able to move in such a way with a kind of softness or a kind of relaxation that like doesn't set off alarm bells in the other guy's head. Mm. So like the moment you get tense, the moment you like you put something up, then they can feel you. There's like your tension begets more tension or begets a kind of reaction. Whereas it's like if you're relaxed, there's no signal, right? You're not giving a signal to the other person. But if you can be relaxed in such a way where you're not limp, you're not, falling all over the place, you're not ineffectual, but you're relaxed in such a way where you're able to reposition your body with them or reposition their body such that you have an advantage or such that you have greater leverage or such that you're able to hit harder or do whatever, right? Like, these are the things that I think need to be explained in a little bit more of a convincing manner from day one with Taiji or a lot of the soft arts, like Aikido too. Like, one of the things that I had a hard time with when I started training Aikido with the kids was like, I kept hearing this word connection. Oh, you lose your connection. You didn't do this. You didn't have your connection. Will you explain to me what the hell connection is? And so, understanding that connection is the ability to be able to use just enough forward energy that you're staying with your partner or staying with your opponent and they're not losing their grip, but you're also like, you're able to manipulate them. You're able to cause them to react in a way that stiffens up or makes them lose balance. That's the connection that we're looking for, rather than like just death grip them. Oh, you're connected now, right? It's not that. It's like, how do you sense them? How do you hold on to them? Or how do you move them? Or how do you move with them in such a way that doesn't get them to freak out, or does get them to freak out, where you don't freak out and you're able to continuously master or dominate the structure.
Wow. How has Systema influenced your training? And do you still work on some of the drills? Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Systema, I got to say, like Martin Wheeler, just like everyone else, the first time you see Systema, you think like, that's bull. No way. Mm-hmm. Absolutely no way. And so I was fortunate enough to reach out to Martin Wheeler, and I was there like, hey, this stuff looks pretty amazing. Like, I got to experience this. And Martin Wheeler came over to the house, my old house, and we spent an afternoon on the mats training. And it's like, this is some storybook shit. Like so many of my martial experiences are like that. So like I had Martin Wheeler in my living room. Back then, that particular house, the living room was basically like a home dojo for the kids and me. And so like, it's me and Martin Wheeler on the mats for an entire afternoon. And he's educating me on, giving me a hands-on view as far as like, this is what Systema is. This is what this art is like. I gotta say, of all of the teachers that I don't get regular time with, and these days, because, I've moved out to Diamond Bar, to spend more time with the kids. When I used to live on the west side of LA, and I had more regular access to Martin Wheeler, he's pretty much at the top of the list of people that I wish to God I had more hours with. Amazing teacher, like his Systema, and he's the first person to actually make Systema, to me, makes sense. Like, or I shouldn't say makes sense, because still there's so much of it that I'm like, how in the hell did he do that?
Right.
I can't quite get my body to do it, even if like cognitively, okay, I can see what he's doing, but I don't have the coordination to be able to do it. I don't have the timing yet to be able to do it. Sense of timing to be able to do it. But yeah, man, Martin Wheeler to me, I think I can't say enough good stuff about him. And it's just how he's given me a glimpse into being able to get more out of the soft arts, the quote unquote soft arts that I practice, whether that's Taiji, Aikido, Shuaijiao, whatever, right? Like even the striking arts, it's just like, oh man, like I could have done it that way. Like there's such efficiency, and I hate this word because it's so overused, but it's so holistic in how he teaches it. Yeah.
So when you say holistic, can you describe that a little bit more?
Sure. So think about an art that as you practice it, you're healing yourself, and you're in training with other people, you're healing them as well. Right? That's the goal in Systema. So it's like, if you hit someone in Systema and it hurts, right? That pain that they're feeling helps them become aware of where there's tension in their body. Like if you are able to hit someone and they're totally relaxed, then that kind of shockwave didn't find tension to cause pain. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if you take that hit and you're like, and ow, that hurts. Whereas like, and you just kind of bounce off of it, or you let it kind of roll through you or dissipate through your body, then there's no pain, right? And so like, as you're hitting and able to cause that kind of progressive relaxation through someone, you're healing them. And their mind, you're actually healing the mind as well, because then if someone is pig-headed and holding on to tension, right? Like I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to tense harder. I'm going to resist harder. There comes a point at which that gives out.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's a pretty obvious one. And so hopefully that person then has that kind of epiphany of like, maybe I should try relaxing into it. I should try softening into it. Okay. Now first, maybe I can just receive it softly. Then maybe I can just move out of the way softly. Then maybe I can hit as I move out of the way. So then there are different progressions as far as skill and understanding and coordination with Systema.
Wow, that's cool. So what drew your attention to Systema in the first place? Like why did you feel like, okay, I want to reach out. I want to experience this.
When I saw it, first few times I saw it demonstrated in, either in video or in person, I was just sort of like, nah. And there was something about the way I remember I saw a clip. Martin Wheeler had just come out with like a 3 DVD series. And he put it up on his social media. And I remember I looked at those videos and I thought, these are exceptional. Like, this is the first time that anything relating to Systema looked like it made sense to me. And so I reached out to him. I was like, I've got to know more. Like, you're the first person to make Systema look, fascinating to me.
Cool.
And his way of breaking it down, his way of not shrouding it in mystery, not making it seem too weird or too whatever, and just like, okay, it's just this. I mean, Martin is 1 in a billion in terms of his communication skills, really is. And as a human being, like he's not one of these people that's like, I've got to beat you down. So we established like a barking hierarchy. He's not that way at all. It's just like, look, just feel this, just feel this, just feel this. And it's like, wow, that's like, yeah. And it really like the hallmark of an exceptional instructor. I can't encourage your audience enough. Like everyone that sees these Systema clips and talks about bullshito or this or that or the other, right? Like, cool, that's fine. But go to a workshop, one that Martin's teaching, or go to one that his teacher, Vladimir Vasiliev, is teaching, and feel it out. Because what you see and think you understand could be something very radically different from what your body actually feels when you get on the mat with someone like that, someone of that caliber. And there's a reason why special operations groups and such seek out those guys for training.
Right.
Yeah.
You got any irons in the fire, Doc? Any maybe new DVDs that you're thinking about doing? Maybe a book, anything like that?
As far as DVDs, it's really cool that INI Sports, Al Iba, Mr. Iba of INI Sports just reapproached me recently to re-release the Combat Taiji DVD series. So that was a really cool surprise. I thought those had been lost as far as the rights to that after Unique Publications closed down. And it's funny because like there's the Y2K catalog where the Combat Tai Chi series came out. On the cover of that catalog, there are 3 people, me, Bruce Lee, and Masoyama. And it's like,
that's company, brother. That's some company right there. Yeah. That's some company.
It's like, man, this little scrub doesn't deserve to be on that cover. But yeah, I mean, like it's really cool to see something from that era of my life come back around. And it's cool for me and the kids to look at it. I mean, one, because the kids are like, Dada, your hair is so short. But like my son is now at an age where he's familiar enough with the form, or at least sections of the form, where he'll know the moves and be like, oh, I never thought about that application. Wait, how did you do that, Dad? And then like I can break it down to him. So that's fun.
That is cool. That is really cool.
It's really cool. And then it's also really cool because, you know, like you said, that hasn't been around for 25 years. So like now a whole new audience that, is open to that kind of material is able to see it and appreciate it. What's cool for me personally about it is that like my understanding of Taiji has changed a lot, you know, in those 25 years. And I still feel like, man, like when it comes to the softness, when it comes to not setting off those alarm bells and those red flags with my opponents, when it comes to like fine points of joint alignment and strength and things like that. And then, you know, making every moment of practice truly rehabilitative. Like there's so much I have yet to learn. So yeah, it's cool. And of course there are fine points in terms of the fighting. Like 25 years later, it's one would hope that, someone's level of understanding in terms of combat gets a little bit more efficient, a little bit more, smooth. So yeah. As far as other things that are coming down the pipeline, one of my dearest friends, Jason Ferrugia, has been riding me like hell to get some content out, in a variety of different ways. So some of it's going to be rehabilitative, kind of like the Prehab Rehab 101 DVD that I put out. So that, from what I understand, is still available, that Prehab Rehab 101 DVD, as well as a download. But yeah, there's so much more stuff as far as like fine points of training. How do you train in such a way where like the workout doesn't so much kick your ass as much as it builds ability, and it also rehabilitates you at the same time. So those things are something that I've been so just crazy focused on. And Jason's been really good about not letting me slack. So yeah, big props to Jay Ferrugia for that.
Good.
Nice.
So, yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see what comes down the pipeline. And certainly there's other stuff too, with my other pet project, K3 Combat Movement Systems. So K3 is a project that, Dr. Jim Yuen, another one of my best friends, and I came up with. And originally the idea was like, around 2009, someone had asked me like, "Hey, Doc, what are the things that you do for training?" And I thought, it's really 3 Ks: kettlebells, kick punch arts, and then kali / krabi kabrong, like Thai weaponry, right? And so I thought, so yeah, K3, those are the 3 Ks. So strength training, a la the kettlebell, kick punch movement systems, and then weapons-based stuff. And then instead of looking at reinventing the wheel and putting together a new curriculum based on the stuff that I like to do, I thought like, what is it that like in all of these bodies of knowledge is a binding thread that could improve how people feel, how people move, how people perform. Like, it's not just a tactical thing. It's not just a combat thing in terms of fighting, but it actually heals the body. It actually improves your athleticism. It actually brings you back from harder training so that you can go and rejoin the training or rejoin the battle, and still be able to make it home, not so trash that you can't even pick up your own kids. So like, these are the things that I thought about a lot. And K3, as Dr. Jim Yuen and I thought it through, became that. So looking at different aspects of the martial systems that I've been exposed to, that I've come up in, and looking at using different training methods to improve outcomes in rehab or in sports performance. So there's a lot coming down the pipeline with K3, quite a lot. It's just, there's so much material that I want to put out and so little time.
Yeah, you're busy being Papa too over there.
Papa, son. I mean, like I said, in 2019, like my parents were visiting, and they're rather old. My dad, like I said, is 96. So like I moved them in full time. So the former master bedroom that used to be mine is now the spa. The other major bedroom in the house is theirs. So like when I'm not here available for them to take care of them, take care of the house, whatever, or clean the house, I'm then doing stuff with the kids. And then when I'm not with the kids, I'm working. And then when I'm not working, I'm trying to train. And then when I'm not training, I'm like out cold usually. So yeah, there's a lot of outputs. And so trying to put more stuff out that I've been dying to put out, but I just don't always have the bandwidth for it. That's the tough thing. And so now I think in the last maybe 9 months or so, I've been trying to be more mindful about what are the things that I do that I gain joy from, that I gain excitement from, that somehow like inspire me or move me, but they're still outputs. So I have to be mindful about like, okay, I really like, I love this shit, but it's tiring. And with every juice, there's a squeeze. So knowing how to be honest with myself about that, has been really helpful, but it's also really caused me to dial back, because I realized kind of late in the game that I was pushing myself into burnout all too often.
I just wrote down with every juice, there's a squeeze. That's, that's a bumper sticker right there, Doc.
I can't remember where I originally heard, there's a better version of it. I think the original version I heard was in some movie, and I think the line went, "Is the juice worth the squeeze?"
Ooh, that's a good one too.
Similar idea. And so like for me, everything that I do now is about opportunity cost. Like I get to do you guys have heard me go on and on about this for over an hour now.
This is great. We love it. Yeah. That's why we have the podcast. This is awesome.
I've been lucky to do stuff. I mean, Tony Blauer would hate that I say the word lucky so damn much, but that's genuinely how I feel. I mean, like I feel so lucky to have had the kinds of opportunities that I've had to do the stuff that I do with the people that I get to do it with. But damn, there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things are still outputs. So being able to balance outputs with nourishing inputs requires a bit of mindfulness. And so, yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
That's awesome. Well, I've only got 2 more questions for you, Doc. And then Owen, please pop in here at anytime you want. With all the way you're taking care of yourself, I'm just going to say you're going to live to 150. So congratulations. That's a pretty good haul. So in that 150 years, if you had a chance to do another martial art and you had the time for it, what looks interesting to you? What out there in the, I know.
Dude, I'm not going to lie to you. Like there's as a kid who was raised in the 70s and 80s, like I'm sure you guys have both seen Highlander, Connor McLeod and the Immortals and stuff like that. And, one of the questions that came up, I can't remember the name of it. It's a Netflix series that they've just been doing. I think it's called Sandman.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
There was one episode where there was a guy in there who was granted immortality, and the guy the Sandman that granted him immortality said, like, I thought he'd be tired of living by now. He goes, I see all these other people and they're like, they're 70 or they're 80 or they're 50 or they're whatever, and they're tired of living. And this guy's like 500, 600, 700 years old. And he's like, he's not bored of it. He's still like, he's got that energy. And I feel like for me, if I knew that time wouldn't run out, dude, like I could just do the same shit that I'm doing right now.
Sure.
And like, know that I had more time to do it in, right? Like assuming my body doesn't lose functionality to the point where like I can't get up and do these things, right? I'm not saying I need to do a jump spin 360, but like, relatively fundamental athleticism, right? If I could keep that, I would be glad to live to 600 or 700 or 800 or, I'm down for it because there's so much in so many different areas of the human experience that I feel like I'm just starting to scratch the surface of as far as connecting the dots. And every freaking day, truly, I'm in my 50s now. I mean, every day I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. Wow. How come I didn't see that before? Wow. Like, I can't wait to try that on X, Y, and Z. So other martial arts systems, sure. I mean, there's lots. I mean, like Bagua has always fascinated me. I want to spend more time doing capoeira Angola. I'd love to be able to spend a lot more time with Professor Roy Harris doing jiu-jitsu. Certainly more doing Systema. But I mean, there's no, I mean, I think any one thing that you do, if you're looking at it with the right perspective, it'll connect dots to other styles as well. Like, oh, that's why they do this in this other style. So yeah, dude, I with all my heart, truly with all my heart, like I mean it when I say that, like, there's so much in what I'm already doing that to like, if you just said, Cheng, all that you're going to do from now on until the end of your days is just Taiji, I'd be like, cool. There's a lot in there. And it's like, no matter, or just Systema, or just this, or just Kali, or whatever. There's so much in there that you'd have to be pretty narrow-minded and pretty myopic to get bored. How are you going to get bored when you've got something that's that deep? And if you have access to someone that can teach you the depth of these arts, or can show you the depth of these arts, or lay out the roadmap, like, here, on your own, discover all of this, how are you going to get bored? I mean, yeah, this is why, like, every day I wake up and it's like, God, please give me the juice to be able to do all these things I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
Truly.
My last question for the night, Doc.
Hit me.
Maybe when you're empty nest papa, would you ever consider touring and doing seminars on either the combat Tai Chi or Kali or anything like that?
I toured a lot prior to the pandemic, and I think right up until 2016 when I had to move out to this side of town. Prior to that, I mean, like, I was at LAX sometimes 3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I traveled quite a lot to teach. So could I get back on the road ostensibly? Yeah, maybe. I mean, it really depends. You know, my son's almost out of the nest. My daughter's still got quite a ways to go, but, like, I'm still here for the most part. The biggest thing that keeps me from traveling is that I just want to be around to take care of my parents. Like, I don't have any backup to help look after them. So, like, yeah, I mean, in the future, if they're not around and I'm still totally able-bodied, I could conceivably get back on the road and do workshops and stuff like that. But right now, at this stage in the game, my plan and what I've been discussing with Jimmy Yuan, Dr. Yuan, was for K3 and things like that, to host those workshops here in Southern California.
Have them come to you. That's good. I like it.
Yeah, because right now that's the only way that it's going to work out logistically. Like, I don't mind traveling. Like, God knows I've sure done more than enough of it over the years around the world to teach, from, like, South Africa to South Korea and places in between, man. Like, I've been around. And does part of me miss the road? Yeah, ish. But to be honest, like, there's nothing like sleeping in your own bed. There's nothing like being able to kiss your kids goodnight. There's nothing like being able to, like, you know, hug your dad. And I mean, like, a lot of what I'm doing now certainly, like, hamstrings other parts of my life. But it goes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of opportunity cost, right? Like, I don't want to be one of those dudes that, I don't know what, in my 60s or some shit, and going like, oh, I wish I did this for my dad. I wish I did that for my parents or whatever. Like, you know, a lot of people throw out these I wish, and when they're presented with the opportunity to do, they don't do. So where's the disconnect there? Like, when you have the opportunity, like, are you going to step up? Are you going to endure the squeeze just so that you can enjoy the juice and so that you can have the clean conscience later on down the road? If you're not up for that, then don't say like, oh, I wish this, I wish that. It's more like, instead of wishing that you had time with your dad, or wishing that you had time with your kids, or wishing that you had time with someone special, right? Make the damn time.
Yeah.
Make the sacrifices. Give up on that income. Give up on those trips. Give up on those things so that you can actually invest in your relationship. And if you're not going to do that, then it's like saying, okay, oh man, I wish my hamstring didn't get hurt. Well, did you stretch that thing before, did you train it? Did you work on some strength? Or did you just think you could throw the kick and then it's going to be totally fine? So for me, a lot of life, a lot of what I'm about these days is about honoring those kinds of investment. And yeah, I mean, like, I would love to get back on the road, in some ways. Unfortunately now with the travel industry the way it is, I'm not real eager to be on the road anymore.
That's a fine point, Doc. That's a fine point.
Dude, I mean, like even pre-pandemic, the occasional flight cancellation or whatever was a pain, but now it's commonplace. And so like, I don't have the patience for that. And the money that I make, working with my clients and patients here, I practice the medicine I practice now since I closed my office is mostly concierge style. So like patient calls up or like someone the people that have me on retainer, then I go and work with them on a semi-regular basis. So like the money that I would lose not taking care of them, since to be honest, it's a pretty penny. The money that I would lose not taking care of them is pretty hard to compete with as far as like workshop money. So yeah, if I'm doing a workshop, it'll be really rewarding for me on one sense, but I got to make sure that I understand it as an investment for the future, for like improving outcomes for people that I will never meet, right? Like some of the patients that some of my colleagues work with who've gone through K3.
Awesome.
Nice.
Mr. Schilling, any questions for the doc?
No, I don't think so. That's been fantastic. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it was awesome because like anytime I was thinking something, Doc, you just picked it up and ran with it. I'm like, I didn't even have to say something. He knew what to say. Doc's been on a podcast before.
Yeah. I've done a couple.
Well, is there any closing thoughts that you'd like to leave the audience with, or anything that you don't think's being said out there these days, or anything like that, Doc?
I don't think I'm terribly creative, when it comes to that sort of thing. But there's some thought, like as far as the thoughts that I want to leave people with, and it's kind of the same thing that I try and say in my social media, like on my Insta, as you've seen, and hopefully there'll be a link to that in the show notes.
Absolutely. We always do that.
But if people would just slow down enough to become a little bit more aware, then maybe they would be a little bit more kind. So I think that if there's a message, it's that slow down a little bit. And it's sometimes the hardest thing to do because we get so caught up in excitement, especially the excitement of achievement. There's so much shit we want to do, so much that we've got to like, I have this opportunity. I have that. I have this, or like whether it's opportunities or wants that are driving your movement or driving your thought process. Oftentimes that turns into anxiety. And if you can't slow down enough to be able to make intelligent decisions and be able to craft a plan that is long-term or long game guided, you may end up with more regrets than you want. So slow it down a little bit, look through life in a way that allows you to see, like, is this honoring my long-term plan? And is it the juice that I want to be squeezed for?
Doc, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been so much fun, and absolutely, we're going to put your website, everything in the show notes, and wish you the best. And maybe down the road, we'll have you on the show again, and you can tell us about everything you've done with K3 Combat and everything else that's going on with you. It's
a cool project. I really the best way of keeping in touch with what I'm doing is my Insta at Dr. Mark Cheng. The website really, really, really is overdue for a long overhaul, a very thorough overhaul. But otherwise, yeah, everything's on Insta. So yeah, I look forward to another round with you guys.
Right on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Doc. Have a blessed day, my friend.
Thank you, sir.